Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me so much pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Mr. Benoy K Behl. Today's talk is the 15th in the monthly series Glimpses of Culture. The film screening today is on Darshan of the Divine. It is about the beautiful subject of Chola bronzes. For those of you who were not with us for previous talks, I will give a brief introduction to the speaker. How does one speak of an art historian who is a respected speaker at a breathtakingly long list of prestigious universities and museums around the world? Yet, art history is only one part of his life's mission. He's a filmmaker who has made over 146 deeply researched documentary films. He's an eminent photographer, Buddhist scholar, and a record setting traveler. As a labor of love, Professor Behl has traveled to all corners of this vast subcontinent, documenting even remote temples and sites, not just once, but several times. The result is a breathtaking documentation of culture, which provides a new perspective to Indian and Asian art and culture. What finally emerges is the deep interconnectedness of the art everywhere. With his deep understanding, Professor Behl underlines the sublime philosophic vision, which is the essence of this valuable heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, Benoy K Behl speaks to us today on the exquisite tradition of Chola bronzes of Tamil Nadu. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Sujata Chatterji, for that introduction, and thank you for helping to make all that I do possible. Thank you. My many thanks are owed to India Habitat Center for this yet again opportunity to share another page of the cultural history of India with all of you. And my many thanks to Doordarshan, who, true to the spirit of a public broadcaster, have over the years sponsored the making of so many of my films based upon deep research. In a world so engrossed with TRPs and commercial success, it is amazing to see the way that Doordarshan has been to back the making of deeply researched and very serious work. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the belief in Indian philosophies has been that the final truth is nirgun, without qualities. It is arupa, without forms of the world as we perceive them. It is a search for shunyata, the extinction of the perceptions of the world of forms around us, to see what is beyond. And yet, while we remain caught in this world of samsara, this world of illusion, this world of forms which occupies us, Indian philosophy has offered its philosophy of aesthetics, where it is understood that our experience, what we feel when we see something truly beautiful in nature or in art, like a beautiful sunrise or a truly beautiful work of art, this experience is akin to Brahmanand, or the bliss of final salvation itself. So this helps to create a peace of mind. It helps to draw us a little away from the noise and confusion, the clamor of the material world around us, in which we can then meditate in more peace and hope to find true knowledge. In the meantime, Indian art brings us deities, deities which move the abstract nirgun to a world of accessibility, deities who are in human form, deities who have families just like you and me, deities who we can relate to and thereby create a relationship, thereby create a realm of understanding from where we can finally move on to our understanding of the Nirgun or the Arupa. So while these exquisite deities were created mainly in stone and on the sides of vast temples, there was also a tradition of making these deities in much smaller bronze images, images which are much more intimate, images which open our hearts out and we relate to the deities in these smaller images with our open hearts. It is also related to the concept of bhakti yoga, where we lose ourselves in our adoration of the divine. And when we lose ourselves, we leave our material concerns behind and we lose ourselves in the ecstasy of thinking about the divine, of a beautiful relationship with the divine, taking us away to a realm of peace, beauty, and taking us away to the joy which there is within us. So, ladies and gentlemen, some of the finest bronzes made in India were made during the Chola period in Tamil Nadu. And today it is my pleasure to bring you this film on that subject. And I would request Sushant, who has been doing a wonderful job of doing these film screenings. Sushant, please run the film. Thank you.
According to ancient texts, the deity in the sanctum of the Indian temple is depicted closest to its all-pervasive nature. It is a manifestation of the ultimate truth. There also developed a great tradition of Utsava Murtis, or festival images. The deity, in many manifestations of human form, comes out to the streets of the town. Sometimes he performs a journey to a place of pilgrimage. He may be taken for a ritual bath, or even to the seashore to enjoy the breeze. As presented in the ritual texts, the Utsavas are of two kinds. These take place as a regular part of worship, in which the deity may make a circumambulatory tour of the temple, and those which occur once in a week, month, and year. The most important are the grand celebrations called Maha Utsavas, which are annual celebrations. In all these Utsavas, the deity leaves the sanctum and becomes approachable to all. The abstract, all-encompassing reality is given a form which we can relate to. A human form with emotions we can understand, even as a family man with a wife and child. It is the human form, luminous with the beauty of divinity. By about the 8th century, the Utsava Murtis in the temples of Tamil Nadu began to be made in bronze. This tradition of bronzes, which reached its height in the rule of the Cholas, resulted in some of the finest works of Indian art.
A very different tradition of modeling was followed here in India, and particularly in the South Indian bronzes, where unlike the European tradition of using models, the images were all made using mnemonic techniques, whereby the craftsmen were meant to memorize dhyana shlokas, which describe the attributes of various goddesses and gods, and they used the Talamana canon of measurement to essentially visualize the image and then sculpt it out of their own imagination rather than using models.
In the skilled hands of devoted artists, the metal images communicated the majesty and dignity of the deities, as well as the suppleness and dynamic movement of their bodily form. These are remarkably expressive and graceful. They convey the spiritual fervour of the artists who made them. These works of art are a part of a divine architecture where the deity manifests himself in forms which awaken the bliss and the peace within the viewer. These fluid and subtle images are a means of expressing the beauty of the divine, which is in all that we see. In medieval Tamil Nadu, Hindus worshipped their deities in shrines within their homes and in temples. From the time of the devotional saints, from the 6th and 7th centuries onwards, many temples were built. The Chola period from the 9th century saw the increasing emphasis on grand temple structures. Many brick temples were rebuilt, and starting with the early 11th century, the tallest and most impressive temples were made. These edifices were like great cosmic palaces, inhabited by large numbers of deities. The Shaiva Agmas and the Vaishnava Samhitas, the sacred texts which guide the rituals in temples, prescribe the procession of Panchamurtis, or 5 images in the great temple festivals. With some 40,000 temples in Tamil Nadu, we can see how the art of making bronzes flourished here. Temples dedicated to Vishnu had a limited range of icons. Vishnu was represented with his consorts and in his avatars in human form as Krishna and Rama. The processional images of Shiva present him in many forms. We see him as a family man in the Soma Skanda icon with his beautiful wife Uma and child Skanda. As Bhikshatana, we see Shiva as the enchanting mendicant. As Veenadhara, we see Shiva as the lord of music. His lower hands would have held the veena, a stringed musical instrument. Many bronzes are also made of Shiva's wife Parvati and their sons Ganapati and Kartikeya. The sacred texts also mention Bhaktotsavas, the festivals of the devotees of the Lord. These celebrate the 63 saints of the Shaiva tradition and the 12 saints of the Vishnu temples. On the day of the procession, the bronze image of the saint is taken in front of the deity, and his compositions are recited before it. The most magnificent image in the bronzes is the Nataraja, Shiva in his cosmic dance. In this dance, he creates and destroys the world. The richness of symbolic meaning in the Nataraja image makes it one of the greatest icons created by man. The circle in which he dances is samsara, the cycle of life and death in this illusory world. In one hand he holds a drum, whose heartbeat sound represents the creation of the world. Complementing the moment of creation is the simultaneous destruction of the cosmos. In his other hand, he holds the fire with which he destroys the world. The lower right hand offers solace to the devotee, granting fearlessness with the Abhay Mudra. The lower left hand points to the raised foot. This foot springs up from the back of the dwarf of ignorance, of forgetfulness of the truth. The dwarf, Apasmara, is crushed under the right foot of Shiva. Under the raised foot, the devotee is promised refuge from the turmoil and confusion of the world of illusion. The dance is wild, as we see from the coils of Shiva's hair which fly in all directions. Yet, the expression of the Lord is serene, and the many limbs are in perfect balance. At the center of all the dynamic movement is the stillness of peace.
I think that notion of serenity or of stillness after agitation, the Shantarasa, is something that animates much Indian art. But it's to be cherished precisely because it's seen against a context of agitation and of non-repose. So, once again, the viewer or the worshipper is not invited to look at a desiccated, dry, abstract idea of serenity. It is actually a hard-won serenity that is placed in counterpoint to the invitations as well as the agitations of the material world. So it's this notion of counterpoint, the interplay of opposites, which for me truly defines the genius of Indic art.
In his hair, Shiva has Ganga, the heavenly river, as she passed through Shiva's locks on her descent to the earth. The Chola artists imaged deities as graceful, languid beings. There is always a sense of repose. Minute details, such as the gentle swelling of bellies, bring these bronzes alive before us. These bronzes also mark great technical achievement in the arts, where metal was flawlessly molded to give form to the intangible. The material never dominates the image, which moves the viewer through the perfection of its beauty. A balance is achieved in the dancing icons, where Sambandar balances on one foot, his arm extended in a posture that is dynamic and graceful. Nuances, such as a heel raised off the ground, show an effortless naturalism which goes far beyond photographic reality. We can relate immediately to the shyness of Parvati as a bride. Her companion gently places her hand on Parvati's back, encouraging her to move forward. The Kalyana Sundara Murti is undoubtedly one of the finest expressions of world art, where individual emotions are translated to a universal plane. As Shiva clasps Parvati's hand when they are married, the onlooker relates to the divine through emotions which are so closely a part of his own life. We are reminded of the divinity of life in all its moments, Thus, life in the world is fully celebrated. While the bronzes were made, Vedic hymns were chanted and sacred rites were performed at appropriate stages. They were elaborate rituals of establishment, similar to those of the main temple icon, whereby the divine presence was infused in the images. The Utsava Murtis would then reside in the sanctum or close to it. They would receive daily worship, and at the time of the festivals, they would truly come into their own. Besides daily and weekly festivals, most annual festivals last for 11 to 15 days. They are grand and colourful occasions in which the deities are carried through the city streets on palanquins and on vast chariots. The chariots or rathas have tall superstructures which resemble temple towers. Such festivals continue till today as expressions of religious fervour and personalized devotion to the deities. Tamil saints of the 6th to the 9th centuries brought a very special quality of bhakti to religious practice in Tamil Nadu. Bhakti is a wholehearted devotion in which the worshipper becomes so immersed in the adoration of the Lord that he loses the sense of his separate self. It is a joyous path to the ultimate unity with the divine, out of love and its rapture.
It's a matter of mind, isn't it? There can be a very personal relationship with God. It's a personal relationship with something which is probably beyond our comprehension, but at the same time, the surrender is a accepted form of worship both in the Saivite tradition as well as the Vaishnava tradition. Finally, you are supposed to surrender.
Bhakti is the ultimate and most personalized expression of love of the deity. The poems of the saints left a deep impression upon Tamil culture, which continues till today. The Shaiva saint Appar sings of Shiva. If you could see the arch of his brow, the budding smile on lips red as the convey fruit, the sweet golden foot raised in dance. The essence of the Utsava Murtis is found in their poems. This is the Lord who has come out of his all-pervasive form in the inner sanctum to be among his people. On the streets he offers Darshan, a view of himself. In Indic traditions it is believed that the act of looking upon the divine is an act of receiving grace. The divine is present everywhere. In our recognition of that, we are blessed. The deity is treated as an honored guest and beloved Lord. He receives puja or ritual adoration every day, and in some temples, even up to 8 times a day. Priests wash his feet, bathe and anoint him, rub sandalwood paste on him, and dress and ornament him. He is entertained with song and dance, and hymns of the saints are sung before him. Inscriptions speak of a dazzling array of jewelry which was gifted to the deities. These were given by a wide range of persons, from royalty to merchants, musicians and dancers, and palace maids. Inscriptions also inform us of 400 dancing girls who were brought to live in Tanjavur to dance before the deities. The technique used to make South Indian bronzes is called the lost wax process. First, the image is carefully made out of hard beeswax, complete in all its details. Then the wax is covered with layers of clay. The clay-covered model is then heated so that all the wax melts and comes out. What is left is a cavity which exactly replicates the wax image. Next, the molten bronze is poured in through channels in the original design. Once it has cooled, the clay is broken away and the stems of the channel are filed off. During Chola times, the molds were made so perfectly that no further details needed to be carved. However, these days, the fine details are cut after the casting process is over. As the clay mold is lost each time, every bronze is a unique work of art. The early images were made of copper, as is recorded in Chola inscriptions. In later times, images of Panchaloha, or 5 metals, became popular. The constituents, gold, silver, copper, lead and tin, represent the 5 basic elements of which the world is made.
The Sthapati who makes the bronze image, he creates an image with all devotion, and it is seen that he is considered the Acharya at that time. So, he is called Achari. He is given cloth, he is given garland, he is given all the gifts. In fact, he is even worshipped. Sacred water is sprinkled on him, and he becomes the divine who makes the divine image.
The passion and the devotion of the Tamil saints and other devotees are well expressed in the words of the saint Sundarar. We see also the deeply personal quality of this worship. Great Lord of mercy, you have placed yourself in my heart, and now nothing will let me forget you. How could I possibly say that I am not your slave? It is these exquisite images in human form which brought the divine from abstraction to accessibility and even intimacy. The Saint Appar sings, "It is glorious and unceasing, the singing and dancing about the Lord's glory, as devotees sing the praises of the Lord who stood revealed before them." The Utsava Murtis and festivals provide that wonderful occasion when the people may experience the joy of being overwhelmed with devotional feeling.
There is such a wonderful quality to this bhakti, and through this philosophy of aesthetics, where we are carried away in every moment by the gentlest and most beautiful of thoughts. fact, it's quite marvelous to see how these very human images are created, how beautiful they are, how they are treated by the priests and by the devotees. I'm reminded that when in certain temples of Tamil Nadu, Lord Shiva is brought to the shrine of Parvati, where he will spend the night. Her large nose ring is taken off so that it will not scratch the Lord. How marvelous, what exquisite ideas. The Kalyana Sundara Murti, what a beautiful image, where the most tender of emotions from our own personal life reach a level of divine expression, and thereby allowing us a window through which to realize that all that there is in our own lives and everywhere is after all divine. What a beautiful interplay of the world of emotions and one's personal world with that of the transcendent truth towards which we strive. So we do not at any stage have to leave behind our emotions, which in any case is so difficult to do. So therefore, our emotions are also taken so beautifully and tenderly, and that is also used to help us towards the path which shows us that after all, it is all divine. The material is used, the human is used to help us realize the ultimate illusion of all that is human and material, to help us realize finally that all this is to be left behind in our search for the divine. That, I believe, is one of the most marvelous things about Indian art, how the entire gamut of emotions and the material world is not at all forgotten, but is in fact used and brought before us in all its resplendent beauty and tenderness to help us transcend it all, to go beyond.
The next screening that we have, that would be on 26th November, same time, 6 p.m. That will be a Saturday. And the film this time, we are still staying in the South, is Enchanted Mamalapura. So please do mark it in your calendars, and we'd love to see you all again on that date.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much. My thanks again to the India Habitat Center and to all of you. It was such a pleasure to show you this film today. Thank you.